Really impressive performance from Elise Mertens. Up against a player in really good form at the moment, who started well, but Elise Mertens just...
4 days were all it took for one player to completely rewrite what the tennis world thought it knew about women's tennis. And then it took 4 more days for that entire story to be turned upside down. The headlines will tell you that Alex Eala lost. The scoreboards will tell you that her incredible run finally came to an end. The critics will point to the result in Bad Homburg and call it a reality check. But the truth is far more complicated than that. Because what happened to Alex Eala this week was not a collapse. It was not a warning sign. And it certainly was not a step backward. In many ways, it was the most important week of her entire career. The problem is that scoreboards have never been very good at telling stories. They can tell you who won. They can tell you who lost. They can tell you how many games were played and how many points were won. But they cannot tell you what changed. And something changed this week. Something significant. Something that may ultimately matter more than any ranking point, any trophy, or any individual victory. To understand why, we need to go back. Not just to Bad Homburg. Not even to Berlin. We need to go back to the moment before the tennis world began paying attention. Back to the days when Alex Eala was still viewed as a promising prospect rather than a genuine threat. Back before she started forcing elite players to rethink everything they thought they knew about her. Because the player who walked off the court this week is not the same player who walked onto the grass courts of Europe 10 days earlier. That player arrived with questions. This player leaves with answers. And those answers may have changed the future of women's tennis. The story truly begins in Berlin. Grass court season. The shortest and most unforgiving stretch of the tennis calendar. A surface where points are decided in seconds. Where mistakes are punished immediately. Where confidence matters almost as much as talent. And where reputations can be built or destroyed in a single afternoon. The field Alex Eala faced was not forgiving. It was brutal. One challenge after another. One elite opponent after another. One opportunity after another to prove that Birmingham was not a fluke. Standing in her path was Donna Vekic, a player overflowing with confidence after completing one of the most remarkable stories of the season. Just days earlier, Vekic had arrived at Queen's Club without a place in the main draw. She wasn't supposed to be there. She was a lucky loser, an afterthought, a replacement. Then she shocked everyone. Match after match, she fought her way through the field. She defeated established stars. She survived pressure moments. And by the end of the week, she was holding the biggest grass court trophy of her career. The tennis world celebrated her comeback. The rankings rewarded her resurgence. And when she arrived in Berlin, many believed she was the most dangerous player in the draw. Then she ran into Alex Eala. What happened next stunned everyone. The match was expected to be competitive. It wasn't. From the opening game, Eala controlled the tempo. She neutralized Vekic's power. She exposed angles that few players even attempt. She moved with a confidence that suggested she belonged at this level. By the time the match ended, the scoreboard read 6-2, 6-3. It looked routine. It wasn't, because that victory wasn't just about advancing. It was a statement. A declaration that Birmingham had not been a lucky week. A declaration that Alex Eala's grass court success was real. And, perhaps most importantly, a declaration that elite players could no longer view her as an underdog. But Berlin was only getting started. Waiting in the next round was a challenge of an entirely different magnitude. Elena Rybakina, a Wimbledon champion, one of the biggest servers in women's tennis. One of the most feared grass court players in the world. The kind of opponent that reveals exactly where a rising star stands. Many expected Eala's run to end there. Instead, she forced the tennis world to reconsider everything. Because for the first time, people weren't asking whether Alex Eala belonged. They were asking how high she could go. And that question would follow her all the way to Bad Homburg. A tournament that would ultimately teach the tennis world a lesson far more valuable than any victory. Because greatness is not measured by what happens when everything goes right. Greatness is measured by what remains when the winning streak ends. And Alex Eala was about to discover exactly who she had become. Designed to make aggression feel uncomfortable. Designed to make confidence feel risky. Designed to make every extra shot hurt. And that's exactly where this story changes. Because if you only looked at the final result, you would completely miss what was actually happening. The scoreboard suggested that Alex Eala had finally come back down to earth. The reality was far more revealing. Every athlete eventually reaches a moment where talent is no longer the primary challenge. The challenge becomes endurance. Not physical endurance alone. Emotional endurance. Mental endurance. The ability to keep performing when your body is asking questions your mind doesn't want to answer. By the time Alex arrived in Bad Homburg, she wasn't carrying the expectations of a promising player anymore. She was carrying the expectations of a breakthrough star. And those are two very different things. A promising player can surprise people. A breakthrough star is expected to repeat the surprise. Again, and again, and again. That's where pressure changes shape. Before Berlin, nobody expected Alex Eala to defeat elite players on grass. After Berlin, everyone expected it. The same people who were celebrating her victories suddenly started measuring every performance against perfection. Every missed forehand became a discussion. Every lost service game became a concern. Every difficult moment became a test. That's the price of becoming relevant. The spotlight that celebrates you is the same spotlight that magnifies every flaw. And Elise Mertens understood that better than almost anyone, because Mertens has spent years surviving in exactly that environment. She understands that tennis isn't always about playing your best. Sometimes it's about forcing your opponent to play slightly worse. That's what made the match so fascinating. One player was arriving with momentum. The other was arriving with experience. One player was carrying confidence. The other was carrying patience. One player wanted to accelerate. The other wanted to slow everything down. And slowly, point by point, game by game, the physical toll of Berlin began to reveal itself. Not dramatically, not in a way that would make headlines, not in a way casual fans would immediately notice. It appeared in tiny moments, a fraction of a second late reaching a ball, a forehand that landed a few inches shorter, a return that stayed in the middle of the court instead of finding the corner. Tiny margins, invisible margins, the kind of margins that separate victory from defeat at the highest level. That's why the result matters less than the context. Because what happened in Bad Homburg wasn't proof that Berlin was a fluke. It was proof that Berlin was real. Think about it. Nobody talks about fatigue when a player loses early. Nobody talks about exhaustion when a player never makes deep runs. The conversation only exists when someone keeps winning. The only reason Alex Eala arrived in Bad Homburg carrying so much wear and tear was because she had spent the previous week beating some of the best players in the world. Success created the challenge. Success created the pressure. Success created the expectations. And that changes how we should view everything that happened afterward. Because the most important question isn't whether Alex lost. The most important question is why the tennis world suddenly cared so much when she did. The answer is simple. People only obsess over setbacks when they believe someone is capable of greatness. Nobody spends days analyzing the losses of players they don't believe in. Nobody creates debates about ceilings and futures and possibilities for athletes they consider ordinary. The reaction itself was the evidence. The conversation itself was the proof. Alex Eala had crossed an invisible line. She was no longer being discussed as a prospect. She was being discussed as a contender. And contenders are judged differently. The irony is that Bad Homburg may have revealed more about Alex's future than Berlin ever could. Berlin showed what she looks like when everything clicks. Bad Homburg showed what happens when everything doesn't. Berlin showed her peak. Bad Homburg showed her foundation. And foundations matter more. Because championships are not won on the days when everything feels easy. They're won on the days when nothing feels easy. They're won when confidence is tested. When momentum disappears. When fatigue arrives. When opponents refuse to cooperate. When the magic isn't there. The greatest players in history all faced this moment. The moment where the breakthrough becomes a burden. The moment where expectations arrive before you're fully prepared for them. The moment where everyone starts watching. Alex Eala is living through that moment right now, which is why the story isn't ending. It's beginning. Because somewhere between Birmingham and Berlin, somewhere between Donna Vekic and Elena Rybakina, somewhere between the headlines and the rankings and the viral highlights, something changed. The tennis world stopped asking whether Alex Eala belonged, and started asking how far she could go. Those are very different questions. One is about potential. The other is about destiny. And as Wimbledon grows closer, that distinction becomes more important than ever. Because the next chapter won't be about proving she belongs. That chapter has already been written. The next chapter will be about discovering just how high this remarkable journey can climb. And if the last 10 days taught us anything, it's that betting against Alex Eala has become a very dangerous habit. It's the kind of hurt that comes with expectations. And expectations, whether athletes admit it or not, are a privilege. Because expectations mean people believe. People don't expect greatness from players they consider ordinary. They expect greatness from players who have already shown them glimpses of something extraordinary. That's where Alex finds herself now, in a completely different reality than the one she occupied just a few weeks ago. Before Berlin, she was chasing attention. After Berlin, attention started chasing her. Every result matters more. Every match is bigger. Every opponent approaches her differently. And that change happens faster than most fans realize. Veterans notice it immediately. Coaches notice it immediately. The tour notices it immediately. Because once a player announces themselves the way Alex did in Berlin, they stop getting surprised opponents. Now they get prepared opponents. Opponents who study the tape. Opponents who arrive with plans. Opponents who understand exactly what happens if they allow her to dictate. That's another reason Bad Homburg matters. Not because Alex lost. Because she experienced something every future star eventually experiences. The adjustment. The tour adjusting to them. That's the hidden challenge of every breakthrough. The first breakthrough is difficult. The second breakthrough is even harder. Because now everyone knows what you're capable of. And everyone is trying to stop it. Mertens didn't face the unknown version of Alex Eala. She faced the Berlin version. The version that had just dismantled elite competition. The version everyone was talking about. The version carrying momentum and headlines and expectations. And she came prepared. That matters. It matters because growth in professional tennis is rarely linear. Fans want it to be linear. They want the story to go from breakthrough to title to ranking jump to Grand Slam success without interruption. But that's not how this sport works. Not even for the legends. Especially not for the legends. Go back and look at the careers of the greatest players in history. Every single one of them had weeks where they looked unstoppable. Every single one of them had weeks where they looked human again. The difference wasn't avoiding setbacks. The difference was learning from them faster than everyone else. That's why this moment feels so important. Because what happens next will tell us more than Berlin ever could. Berlin proved Alex can beat elite players. The next few months will determine how she handles being treated like one herself. Can she recover physically? Can she adjust strategically? Can she manage expectations without allowing them to become pressure? Can she keep evolving while the rest of the tour is busy trying to solve her game? Those are the questions that matter now. Not whether she lost to Elise Mertens. Because losing to Elise Mertens on grass after the week Alex just had isn't a scandal. It's a reminder. A reminder that professional tennis is brutal. A reminder that momentum is temporary. A reminder that every breakthrough creates new challenges. And perhaps most importantly, a reminder that Alex Eala is still only 21 years old. Think about that for a second. 21. Most players are still learning who they are at that age. Most players are still searching for consistency. Most players are still trying to figure out whether they belong. Alex is already forcing conversations about Wimbledon seeds, already defeating major champions, already carrying the expectations of millions of fans, already becoming one of the most discussed young players in the sport. That's not normal. That's not ordinary development. That's accelerated growth happening in real time. Which brings us back to the beginning. back to the scoreboard. Because scoreboards are useful. They tell us who won. They tell us who lost. But they rarely tell us what actually happened. The scoreboard says Berlin ended with victories. The scoreboard says Bad Homburg ended with a defeat. The deeper story says something completely different. The deeper story says Alex Eala spent 10 days transforming from an exciting prospect into a player the tennis world now takes seriously. The deeper story says she proved she can stand toe-to-toe with elite competition. The deeper story says she learned firsthand what it feels like to carry expectations. And the deeper story says her journey is moving faster than almost anyone predicted. That's why this wasn't a collapse. It wasn't a warning sign. And it definitely wasn't a step backward. It was a checkpoint, an important one. The kind every future star eventually reaches. The kind that reveals where they are and where they still need to go. Because the truth is simple. Berlin changed the conversation. Bad Homburg tested the conversation. And Wimbledon will help define it. The grass season isn't over. The story isn't over. The climb isn't over. If anything, it's only just beginning. And somewhere inside a locker,